Hello, everyone. 42 CEO Unc42 back here with another video. And today we're going to be talking about how stacked October is, and also more specifically, two artists that I enjoy listening to, Nettspend and Osamason. And we're going to be talking specifically about strategy for when they'll be dropping, because I think that's an interesting point, and I think it's really unknown to a lot of people. I mean, of course, their team knows when they're dropping, but the fans for the most part have really no idea. So, first of all, we're going to talk about overall October as a whole and how stacked it is. And I mean, it is really absolutely stacked. First of all, we got Yeet dropping, which I don't know when he'll be dropping, but I think he's making an announcement today, or at least the time that this is being uploaded. And maybe that's going to be the album release date. I'm not really too sure. But besides that, we also have Ken Carson potentially dropping, which would be absolutely massive. And then also, there are other underground artists dropping too, like Ian, DC the Dawn. So, I mean, it's kind of actually fucking stacked. Like, it's actually, like, unreal in terms of, like, how stacked it is. And then, of course, Nettspend and Osamason will be dropping this month, most likely. At least that's what I'm thinking. We'll talk about it. But, I mean, it's going to be crazy when you think about it. Like, the top two underground artists, two of the emerging mainstream artists, Yeats and Ken Carson, and then also two other very strong underground artists. So it's going to be absolutely packed, and I'm really excited. But let's just talk about the strategy for both of these. So let's first talk about Osamason and what he's done and what he's potentially planning. So, of course, Osamason dropped "I Know What You Did Last Summer" last week, and went off pretty well. Streams did really well. I mean, it was a leaked song, right? So a lot of people had already heard it. I'd probably listened to it like 50 times at that point when it dropped, but I've listened to it 50 more times because it's that good of a song. I mean, We Gonna Be Okay did his thing. Production's insane. It's really fucking catchy, and overall it's probably like a top 10 Osamason song. I mean, Osamason's like discography is like ridiculously good, so it's kind of hard like to put a song into a top 10, like considering how many good songs he has. But again, it was a really good song. I enjoyed it, and it was a fantastic drop in a fantastic single, right? Uploading or kind of leading up into Jump Out, his album. And with I Know You Did Last Summer dropping last week, I feel like normally artists give it about 2 weeks from their promotional single and to the point of when they actually drop their album. So theoretically, with this in mind, Osamason will be dropping his album Jump Out next week. Now, do I actually think that's going to happen? Honestly, you want to hear my honest answer? No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Yeet is potentially planning on dropping next week. Potentially. And I just don't think Osamason wants to, have that kind of overshadow his drop. Because I know they're different genres specifically, or different subgenres, and Osamason fans and Yeet fans don't necessarily fully overlap. But I think Osamason kind of wants the spotlight to himself. I think he deserves the spotlight to himself, and I think he wants the spotlight to himself. So I think maybe 2 weeks he could drop, but also I don't know really when fully Yeet actually plans on dropping, right? Like, Yeet might not drop next week. He could also be dropping in 2 weeks. So maybe Osamason does drop in 2 weeks, but Osamason probably can't drop in 3 weeks, assuming Ken Carson is dropping in 3 weeks, because I mean, that just hurts the ego, or not the ego, the clone allegations, and it makes it way worse. And I mean, he does not want that on his, continuing on his legacy. I just don't think it makes sense for him, and he's probably trying to avoid those continuous allegations. And I don't know. I feel like Osamason is dealing kind of in a tough situation where he might not drop in October. I think if he does drop in October, it might not be on a random Friday. I'm not really too sure, and if it is on a random Friday, I think it's going to have to be soon. It's going to literally have to be next week. I mean, technically, it could be this week, right? It's only Wednesday. Normally, for me at least, it drops Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, it's a little bit over a day, or a little bit under, a day and a half. So, I mean, theoretically, right, he totally could drop this week, but I don't think that'll happen because there'd be more promotion behind it, right? It just makes sense to have more of that promotion. And it's such a stacked month. I really do think Osamason might have to be pushed into November. Again, we'll have to see what happens, but I'm really thinking Osamason, it's kind of an unfortunate situation he's been put in. And I mean, I guess it's not totally unfortunate because, like, at the end of the day, people are still going to listen to it. I think he'll still have bangers, and overall, he'll still deliver, like, a fantastic album. It's just, like, I feel like he has to push this a little bit more than what he wanted to originally. So we'll kind of see what he ends up doing. But, again, I do think if anyone's going to be dropping in November, it'll probably be Osamason. Although, I do think there's still a good chance for October. It really just depends on, like, what everyone else is doing. Now, talking about Nettspend's in a little bit of a similar situation, but I think he has more leverage. I think with him dropping Fuck Swag as like a promotional single or like a first single to the album, it gives him perfect room to drop within the next like 2 or 3 weeks. And with that being said, he's kind of hinted at it more. Like I've heard more people talking about Nettspend in October specifically for him. So, in terms of what I think strategy-wise, I think it would make sense for Nettspend to drop, honestly, next week, especially if he doesn't drop next week. And maybe he drops the same day as Yeet. I don't know if he will. I don't know if he won't. But I think him dropping the same day as Yeet wouldn't, like, kill him by any means. I think it'd be okay. I do think he also kind of prefers to just kind of have the spotlight to himself and drop on just, like, a night where, like, not that many other small artists or underground artists are dropping. He's not small, so I don't know why I said small. But I think Nettspend has a higher chance of dropping in October than Osamason. I think Osamason, if anything, he will be dropping in November, especially because if we line this up, right, Ian and DC the Dawn is October 18th. I guess Osamason and Nettspend could drop that week, but I don't know if that makes sense, especially if Yeet also wants to drop. But if Yeet drops next week too, which would be, I think... Actually, next week would be the 18th. So if he wants to drop next week, it'd be the 18th. If he wants to drop the week after, I believe it'd be sometime around like 23rd or something like that, 25th. And then Ken Carson dropping the 31st. Like it's actually like really packed. So I do think Osamason moves into November. I think Nettspend's gonna have to drop soon, but also Nettspend has the leverage to drop like whenever he wants. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. But it's gonna be confusing. Honestly, it's gonna be like a stacked month regardless. Like this month is gonna be fantastic for new music, and it's gonna be kind of a weird situation where we got a lot of small artists, underground artists dropping in one day, and it's gonna be like kind of confusing. But it's gonna be great. Honestly, it's gonna be great content. It's gonna be great music. Like overall, I'm stoked. I'm completely stoked about it. I think the one kind of like wild card question is like, with Yeet, with Ken Carson dropping, with time kind of, dwindling down a little bit in terms of like free Fridays to drop for both of those artists, will they drop on the same day? Will Osamason and Nettspend drop on the same day? Right? It's totally, I mean, it's possible. It really is possible. It could happen. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but it definitely could happen. It would make for a pretty wild storyline. I don't think it makes sense for both of them, and I think they have mended the relationship, so it's like kind of confusing to what would the integrity of both of them. But I mean, like, it's really going to be like, I think one of them at the end of the day is going to have to drop like when either Yeet or Ken Carson drops. Wow, that was an insane play, by the way. How the fuck did he catch that? Sorry. Anyways, I really do think that either Nettspend or Osamason will have to drop when Ken Carson or Yeet drops. And I don't think they're going to pick Ken Carson the same day. I think they're going to pick Yeet. So my current theory is that Osamason or Nettspend will have to drop when Yeet drops. Unless they choose a random day, but I don't think they'll choose a random day. I think they'll kind of do it typical, like, promotion, typical rollouts, typical Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we'll see what happens, but right now, if I had to give my predictions on, like, who's dropping first in the order of Nettspend, Osamason, Yeet, and Ken Carson, I would probably say right now there's two options. My first and foremost option is first it's going to be Nettspend, then Yeet, then Ken Carson, and then lastly in November, Osamason. Or it'll be Osamason, Nettspend, Yeet, Ken Carson. That's really what I think. There also is kind of a situation in which Ken Carson doesn't drop October 31st. I mean, that's totally possible. I kind of talked about it in an earlier video. I said, hey, he's going to be in Milwaukee October 31st, and that's when this thing's dropping. That's kind of weird. Unless he, decides to cancel that or, do something out in Milwaukee, it's possible. It's just I don't foresee Ken Carson really doing, an album rollout while he's, trying to also perform in Milwaukee. It just really doesn't make full sense to me. So Ken Carson might not drop, and that would also leave opportunity for Osamason or Nettspend to drop October 31st. And honestly, dropping Halloween, that's a big date right there. Like, that's a cool holiday to have an album drop on. So, like, it's a good opportunity for both of them. So we'll kind of see what happens. But what do you guys think? Who do you think dropping first? When do you think Nettspend's dropping? When do you think Osamason's dropping? It's a really interesting topic, and it's like one of those things that like we're not gonna know until like it happens, and it's gonna be like really kind of confusing for a while. I think like both of these artists are gonna like let us know last minute, so we'll kind of see what happens there. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know if you guys want me to play any other games. I've been super like enjoying the NCAA gameplay, so I'm happy to play any other games though. I play a lot of other games. I just really have been locking in on NCAA, and I love just rapping about Yap stuff, and I hope you guys enjoyed the 42 CEO commentary. I've been trying to do one video per day just about interesting topics like news, my thoughts and theories and stuff. But yeah, hope you guys like this video. Make sure to subscribe, comment, and have a good rest of your day.